a startup ecosystem has various components, and I follow Startup Commons Global. This is a very vital resource when it comes to an open startup ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And the way they define a startup ecosystem, they call it an ecosystem OS, an ecosystem operating system. And there are different stakeholders in an operating system, in a startup ecosystem, right? The most important players of these ecosystem are, I would say, the people, the founders, or the startups themselves. Whoever participates at the early level, mm-hmm. and want to really seek support from, be it government, be it private, be it integrated innovation. Some of the social enterprise projects need government grants, right?
Definitely. Yes.
Right. So how do I access government grants? Are there any programs for us locally to access government grants? So how do we work with Expo 2020? So government is one very important stakeholder. His enabler and definer of policy. The startups then help them define those policies or even change some of those policies. Second is private partnerships. When you go to private, there is a lot of co-creation and co-innovation happening these days, wherein a startup is going to a private organization, they really like the solution, and they get embedded in different ways. Corporations, Fortune companies are using this model to kind of establish themselves as the most innovation. They're also establishing innovation labs with the help of startups, and they also have their own accelerator programs. The third pillar is the funding. They're still wanting to get traction from the market and so forth. So for them, friends and family, structuring friends and family round, and then taking them to angels, moving to the venture capital, which specifically work with pre-seed, pre-revenue startups. There are VCs specialized in this segment. And at Founder Institute, we're also, building our VC lab framework to kind of have more investors come in to actually enable and invest in pre-seed startups. The fourth aspect is actually the top venture capitalists themselves who look at Series A and above deals. And then comes private equity, the M&A type of decisions, or the IPO type of decisions. And now the recent model, which is evolved, is SPAC, which is special purpose acquisition vehicles to either do an IPO or to exit. So the government, the private institutions, Fortune companies who want to co-innovate with startups, the funding institutions. The fourth is the universities and the university frameworks. Now Dubai and the UAE has come out with a very, very exciting value proposition that the universities can have accelerators, incubators within their own premises, and they can actually license the companies like the Stanford and the MIT. The policy has been out there. And I think it is just, they are identifying the universities who can implement these policies, implement these incubators, accelerators within the universities, get a license, and then really have those companies spin out of their institutes, which is at a very early stage, at the student life level. The Startup Commons Global, the framework is so solid that it gives you every aspect of participation of a stakeholder. I mentioned 4 stakeholders, there are many more, but these are primary pillars. But how do you structure yourself to play around with these stakeholders? So that's a strategy each participant in the ecosystem has to carve out. What objective am I participating in this ecosystem over? First of all, any opportunity you get, look optimistically at that opportunity and take the lead to execute that opportunity without thinking the outcome. A lot of founders miss the bus because they think of the outcome too much. My belief was from the beginning, and some of the projects I've done strengthened my belief, is your input, your direct input in any activity is equal to your output. Okay. And while you are free to define your goals and outcomes, that's fine, but don't necessarily focus on outcomes. Focus on inputs, on how much time you're giving for that initiative or project. And this is common. Like everybody says, fail fast. FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes.
I missed the bus. Timing was not right. And this is more insecurity for a founder that or any student or entrepreneur, and this also applies when you're giving your exams as a student and things like that you fear uh, of certain things. Again, it is outcome based, but literally that fears drives your motivation down. So self-belief, self-motivation, fear of loss or losing out, remove completely from your outlook. And the third most important skill is honesty and also resilience. I think a lot of founders are not honest to themselves. Okay, they
Why?
get carried away. They get carried away by whatever the market says. If you rely on certain data, be sure to validate that data. Be very, very honest about utilizing that data to your benefit. And this is what most of the founders miss out, that they do not understand. First of all, how can I rely on that data? How can I honestly take opinion of others to build my total addressable market, the hypothesis model for my startup, for my business model, right?
Mhm.
And so this external data validation becomes most important.